Good morning and welcome to the show today. Today we're joined by Ellen Silverstein, President of the Maryland Society of Accounting and Tax Professionals, and Jeff Miller of JM Consulting Alliance.
Morning.
Good morning and thank you for
Good
joining us this
morning,
morning.
everybody. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
it's a
you, thank
lovely
you.
day before the fun weather begins.
Right.
Yes, yes. Well, before we get moving over to Jeff and Ellen, I just want to touch on a couple things for everyone. First off, yesterday we had our last federal tax update in Gaithersburg, another successful event. And Laurie Stillwell from Gear Up did an amazing job. She is just, and she's just a super speaker. I really appreciate it. She really brings a lot to the table.
Good.
I really enjoy her. And now everybody's excited. Hey, what are we going to have in the future? Everybody's excited. So as of now, if you have taken a look at our website, you do not see any education posted as of now. But as of February 1st, we are going to be launching a new set of seminars. And I'm telling you, Ellen, I know you know a little bit about what's coming up.
Just a
Yes, and I'm telling you, we are got some exciting things planned for our 60th anniversary.
Can you believe
60
it?
years.
60
Oh,
years.
yeah, I know.
Unbelievable.
We look
Yes.
daggone good at this point in time.
You know, I'm talking about celebrating my second 30th.
And
So really,
second 30 I love
I'm very
that.
good with
Second
that. So.
30th. There you go.
Well, I'm turning 61 this month, so I got a year on you.
Oh,
my
wow.
gosh.
And
Yeah.
you're looking good. Looking
you.
great.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, again, before I move over to, I just want to touch on one other thing. Had a couple phone calls from our members who are beginning or who actually did some planning, some financial planning for their fourth quarter estimates. And in that process, they saw a couple issues with Ultra Tax as well as Pro Series when it dealt with the Maryland tax. So if you
Wow.
are doing that, they shared with me the information. I forwarded it on to the state of Maryland. I'm waiting to hear back from them so they in turn can deal with the software companies. So if you did do some estimates, just take a look at them. You might need, it's a little, it's a couple days late, but just be prepared. Do your due diligence. I mean, I know we all sometimes count on our software, but
Right.
with today and with the Tax Act, we have to be a little bit more on
really
our
need to be
toes.
checking your numbers because
Yes.
I took my tax software, I input my own return just to give it a look-see.
Yeah.
And I realized that the way that the Maryland is taking off the state income taxes is a huge problem.
Yes.
It's not the right number. And I'm going to have to overwrite this. I don't know how they're going to calculate it. So I've been meaning to call my own tax software company to find out. I use TaxWise. So,
Tax-wise. And like I said, and that's what these,
Yeah.
these two members said. And it was an Ultra Tax and Pro Series. It's the same
same
situation.
problem.
How they're dealing with the state withholding. And when it goes over to
Over
Maryland is
if you're itemizing.
if you're itemizing. Yeah. So
It's going
just
to be a big problem.
It is.
It's going to end up
So-
being manual overrides, which is
And,
going to just take so
I
much
hate
more
that.
time and work.
that's not because I always feel when you overwrite, it's going to come back and haunt you.
Yes.
Oh,
yes, yeah.
that's one thing I
So
just
true.
don't.
So
I
because
don't
You have to
like
check it every time you do it,
exactly.
and then if it changes, you have to make sure you're catching all
Yes,
that. So
exactly.
it's going to be very squirrely.
Yeah. Again, what did we say? That tax return that took maybe 45 minutes to an hour is now going to be taking maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yep.
So
Exactly correct.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I predicted.
so Jeff, as we just sit here and bang your back and forth.
Really okay.
Just fascinating.
Yes,
It's just
So be
fascinating
very
stuff.
mindful when you're doing your return
That's
this year.
right.
That
Just
you
make
should be
sure you're
looking out
checking
for
your
that.
numbers.
Yes.
That's right.
That's why we have a CPA.
Yes, I
Thank
know.
you. Perfect.
Well, Jeff and Ellen, I know you're going to be talking a little bit about self-reflection. So, especially when we go into tax season, that's one of the things we do not do. We are so involved in the tax season era, in that time period that we don't think about ourselves. And I think this is going to be a great little segment on this. So, Ellen?
Yeah, so Jeff had sent out a holiday email back at Christmas time, and it had a really interesting tagline I'll use, and it was very thought provoking for me anyway. So I wanted to let Jeff share that with everybody because I do think this is a great time. We do need to remember to take care of ourselves, especially during this time of year. I know I'll just say last night, for whatever reason, I didn't sleep well. So I'm running on fumes, and we'll see how long I can get through the day. But it is very important to sit back and sort of, as everybody should have done already, as we get ready for tax season, but to make sure you are taking care of yourself. Jeff, I'll let you talk about that lovely equation because we're such math people.
Thank you. I love working with equations because it takes things that sometimes are intangible and it gives us a tool that we can actually use. So as I was reflecting on the year back in December, there were two quotes that came to mind. One was by Yogi Berra, who said, "If you want people to come to your funeral, you got to go to theirs." And then the other one was a quote from John Lennon. So this is Christmas and another year older, and what have you done? And as I started thinking about that, what came to mind was reflection plus perspective plus attitude and behavior equals results at the end of the day. And that's true on a personal basis
Totally.
as we take care of ourselves.
Yes.
It's also true about our businesses, right? How we reflect on our business, the perspective and our beliefs and attitudes and behavior. That's what separates people from being stuck to being able to go to another place. And when I say perspective, what I'm talking about is as you reflect, we reflect on what worked and what didn't work.
Mm.
But your perspective on that, if you only come to it from a negative perspective, then you don't learn from it. If you're willing to say, okay, well, this didn't go exactly how it went, but let's ask some questions around that,
Mm.
right? Because questions are our best friends. And when we're able to ask questions from a more positive perspective, that's how we learn.
Right. So it is interesting because since January 4th of 2018, when I took the first class that I took about the TCJA, I sort of have had a very, I'm dreading next tax season. And
Mhm.
look where we are. Very quickly, 2/18 passed by, and now we're January 17th, actually, of 2019, and we're in it. We're starting it.
Mhm.
And so I've been trying to push myself to come at it from a different perspective.
Mhm.
Even now that we're here, and I know how messy this is going to be, I'm trying not to take it to heart. I'm also trying not to let it get the better of me. So keep breathing,
Mhm.
slowing down, realizing this is not me. It's not controlled by me. Nothing I can control, but to come at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, and I think actually, breath is so important. It's the
Mhm,
one thing we take most for granted, and it's the thing we can live the least amount of time without.
Yeah, true.
Right? Like
Very
water
true.
and food, we can go days without.
Right.
Breath, it's a couple of minutes.
Mhm.
So breathing is a great tool to help bring perspective. And for all you tax guys out there, as you're coming onto your season, if you haven't done so, you still have enough time where you can look back on last year, what worked, what didn't work,
Mhm.
what changes could you make going into the tax season. Do you need to think differently? Do you need to change your attitude? Do you need to act differently? Do you need to behave differently? Because in the end, you guys know how to do tax returns. That's not the issue. It's how are you best running your businesses and how are you maximizing your own potential as well as the potential of people that are working for you. And
Really focusing on the outcome.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're going to come from a negative place, you're going to get negative outcomes
Every
most
time.
likely.
Well-
So if you come at it from a more positive perspective, you'll get a better positive outcome.
Well, my question is, okay, so we all have our lives,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have our businesses. Do you look at it separately, or do you look as in everything?
That's a great
So that's a
question.
great question, and I do a lot of speaking around this issue of drama in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And I think where drama happens is when we try to separate out who am I at work and who am I at home,
Mm-hmm.
because then we're playing different roles
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just integrating who you are in whatever situation you're in. Now, obviously, we play different roles, whether it's husband, wife, friend, father, daughter, son, coworker, boss, manager, whatever that is. But that doesn't mean you have to change who you are inside.
Mm-hmm.
If you just be who you are in those situations, life gets a lot easier.
So you're being more authentic.
You're being authentic.
Yeah.
And with integrity and acting with integrity, and then if then it's not, you're not having to pretend
Yeah.
between home and work.
And that cuts out a lot of
Mhm.
tension, a lot of drama in the workplace, and drama is what costs the most as far as efficiency.
Yeah.
It also, when you're being you, it means you're also being present. You're in the moment.
Mhm.
You're not making believe. You are where you are, and that's the most effective way to get done. What has to get done is
Mhm.
being 100% present in the space that you're at.
Right. Really helpful. Really helpful. 'Cause
Yeah.
it is so important to come at it from a more positive perspective. Life is short, and so we want to make the most and then be the best we can be every day to every day.
Right.
And give our clients the best service, but make sure we're also taking care of ourselves.
Now,
So-
okay, I've now made this step and I've made this observation of myself and
Mhm.
looked at myself. And now, as you know, during tax season, we're interacting with our offices, our staff, and everything.
And your
Do you-
clients.
and your clients. And but like I said, okay, I'm bringing something new to the table as an individual. Can you do this in a group fashion as well, or no? Is this more of an individual
Well, I think
reflection?
it's both. You need to do it individually, but you can do it with your team. You
Okay.
can do it with your coworkers. Um, I want to be careful about being positive because
Mhm.
you need to be positive. You also need to be realistic. So when I'm talking about perspective, I'm not talking about something through rose-colored glasses.
Mhm.
So during the Vietnam War, Admiral Stockbridge was a prisoner of war along with McCain.
Mhm.
They served in Hanoi. They were in Hanoi Hilton for the same 5-year period, and he came up with the principle that said, basically, you face the hard facts, and then you create your reality. And what he meant was, the prisoners who thought they were going to be rescued tomorrow were the ones who never were able to develop the fortitude to actually survive the captivity.
Mhm.
Interesting.
I want to be clear on this as business owners, certainly.
Mhm.
Face the facts. Numbers are what they are. You guys know that. Face them, and then have a strategy to deal with whatever that reality tells you. So it's not about being optimistic. It's about being positive in understanding the reality of the situation.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's rosy, and sometimes it's not. And when it's not, that's okay. Develop the plan and develop the fortitude and the strength to get through
Right.
whatever that hardship is that you have to get through.
Better terminology than being positive. It's sort of developing skills, coping mechanisms to sort of turn what could be a very devastating situation into something that you learn how to live within and then can survive.
And get
basically.
through it,
And
and
you
then-
get through it. It's
yeah.
just much like a taxi.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now I know you brought this out at the first of the year, at the end of the during the holiday season. How often should an individual do this reflection? Should it be annually? Should it be biannually? I mean, is it as you feel you need to? I mean, is there a formula for that? I mean, for the time period?
From my perspective, this is something that you need to do on an ongoing basis.
Okay.
I meditate every morning, so I may not necessarily bring this formula of the reflection, perspective plus attitude equals plus behavior equals outcome, but through my meditation, I'm always kind of meditating on what's going on.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean you need to be obsessive about it,
Hmm.
and you have to remember as you're reflecting, you also need to do, right? It's great to meditate, but if I meditate and I don't do what I need to do to build my business is not going to grow.
Hmm.
So another way of looking at that as business owners, and I coach my clients in this all the time, build in strategic thinking time into your week,
Mhm.
even if it's a half an hour, where you block off time where you're just going to think strategically about the week, about the month, about your business, just to give, because as small business owners, we tend to get so caught up, as you
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
well
With
know,
the minutia.
with the
Yes,
minutia
And
in
we
the
always
weeds.
seem like we're catching. We're trying to catch.
Catch
trying
our
to catch-
tail.
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
you're just running
exactly.
like a dog catching
Yes.
its tail.
And so the reflection is all about getting ahead,
Right.
right? It's not just about sitting there reflecting. It's about what action do you take as a result of the reflection.
Mm,
Right.
very good. Interesting.
It's really helpful tools. Sort of and recognizing where you are, I
Mhm.
think, and figuring out, okay, how best can I move forward? What do I need to do to
Right.
get from here to there?
Mhm.
So I mean, I sat down at the end of last year and I went, okay, what can I do to be better organized, keep the emails from inundating me, and get what I need to get done? So we've instituted some things in my office, which are turning out right now, at least at the beginning parts of it, to be quite helpful. So
That's great.
But that's great because that all comes from
Right.
thinking
Yeah.
about it, the reflecting, the putting in perspective. I'm going to change my attitude about it. Tax season's going to be fine. It's just going to be fine. It's just going to be fine. And behavior, and then I'm going to hopefully get a better outcome.
Mhm.
So that's what we're looking for.
And you guys have heard me talk about this previously, but another tool that I work with is this formula called Be Do Have, and it's a reverse formula. So you list out the things you want to have, which is relatively simple. Then you list out the things you need to do to have it. And then the question becomes, if I know what I want to have and I know what I need to do and I don't have it, who do I need to be? Right? More courageous, more determined, more committed, whatever those B's are. The B's are the 80% of the iceberg that we don't see, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
how we self-identify. But if I only concentrate on the be and I don't do, I'm still not going to have what
You're
I
never
want.
going to have it.
So
Right.
it's this
Right.
be, do, have, reflection, perspective, attitude, behavior
Mm-hmm.
is what allows us as individuals and as associations and as business owners just get to whatever the next height we want to get to.
Now,
Awesome.
Jeff, do you have a website that people, if they can find you, or
Sure.
you
It's
should share with us?
www.jmconsultingalliance.com. My email address is jeffmiller@JM Consulting Alliance. And you can always get me the old-fashioned way by telephone, 703-963-6034.
Wow.
Excellent.
This is
Great.
wonderful.
Really good stuff.
I
And
know,
he's got
and-
some
and-
great. Don't you have podcasts on your
I do.
thing?
Yeah,
So
I do.
excellent podcasts are available on his website as well.
Well,
Because I've listened to a bunch of them.
Well, that just leads us right into what we're going to be talking about next week.
Well, isn't
Ellen,
that fun?
Look at you.
I
mean,
know.
we are just right there, girlfriend.
We are so
So next week, we're going to be talking about podcasts.
Right.
Of course, we'll be sharing podcasts of what you tools about accounting.
Mhm.
Ellen, I know
Some
you've
tax
given.
ones. There's a lot of business, really great business ones out
Right.
there, and just some other just interesting ones.
Right.
Cool.
So
So it's interesting. Ellen is a is that a word, podcaster?
yes,
Or
yeah, I'm not
Cassie?
doing them, but I am.
yes, you
I'm
are like-
listening to
you're
them. I
listening.
do like to listen to
Podcastee.
them. Yeah, podcastee. Yes,
There you go.
exactly. There we go.
Podcasting, a new word. And she sort of got me hooked, and I've been listening to, and it's very interesting
Yeah.
to
So,
hear some of these thoughts. I mean, it's very interesting.
some of the information that we're providing on these Facebook Lives have been a result of listening to some of those podcasts.
Yes.
Behavioral economics was a one.
Right.
You know, choice architecture, making how we word certain things, opting in, opting out.
Mhm.
That's all part of that behavioral economics.
Right.
And that I got that off of a podcast.
And it's really interesting because I actually had this conversation with a client of mine yesterday who spends a lot of time in the car. I said, "So what do you do?" He said, "Why? Drive. I
Mhm.
listen to sports radio." I said, "Well, I listen to sports radio as well, but how about every once in a while, pop on a podcast,
Right.
learn
Exactly.
something. You
Yeah.
turn the car into a university."
Yes.
So
And
You're
that's
a captive
exactly-
audience. Might as well
that's
take
right.
advantage of that time.
I know exactly. And when you're driving in the traffic, or
Mhm.
if you just just need to just give your mind a break, and out of the taxes, and it's interesting to hear these. So again, next week's program we're going to be talking about podcasts.
That's
We're
great.
going to give you some suggestions and some links to some really good podcasts, in which we have found. And
Mhm.
hey, and for those who are using podcasts right now that are listening in, if there's ones that you're listening to that you'd
We
like to
would
share, we'd love to
hear.
hear about you, because we like to build that little library of podcasts that we can share with the membership. So I think that should do us. And
That's it.
so
We're
we'll
good
be
for
good to
today.
go. And
right.
on both again, I wanted to thank you for joining us
And
this
you're
morning.
welcome and thank you.
Yes, and everyone, please be safe this weekend. I understand we're going to have some questionable weather, and have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.